Hello everybody and welcome back to the Talking Wolves podcast for yet again another podcast discussing more than likely two results, but obviously huge things happening in and around Molineux on Monday night in particular ahead of the Manchester United game. We'll discuss that. We'll look ahead to the Arsenal game on Saturday as Wolves continue to search for their first Premier League win of the season. It's absolutely crazy to still be saying that coming towards the middle part of December. And of course, we'll answer your questions later on in the show as well. Alongside me today, we've got Mr. Jordan Russell. Jord, thanks for jumping on. Looks like we're matching. We're both wearing our green jumpers today.
Yeah, it's almost like a Man United Glazer protest, isn't it? With the green. But no, yeah, it's good to be back on. Obviously, again, a lot to talk about. Wish it was in better circumstances, but we'll keep coming on here every week and try and make a podcast for everyone to listen to and at least enjoy to some extent.
Yeah, it's always difficult, obviously, considering the circumstances. But how you been outside of the football anyway?
No, all good. I think the weather's been a bit of a pain in the arse, so I've not played any golf. For anyone that's like avid on sort of my golf updates, not played for a few weeks. But I'm actually playing tomorrow, touch wood. Got half day.
It's meant to be okay tomorrow, I think, the weather.
Yeah, I think so. So hopefully, I think the golf will be shit. But in terms of not being swinging for that long, that long of a time, really. But no, all good. Like weekend, Emma wanted to get the Christmas tree up, the decoration, so
did mine on Sunday.
Managed to get all that up. Yeah, so that's all up now, which is great. Went to a couple local Christmas markets in and around sort of Stourbridge as well, and it was that thing of Emma was like, "Let's pop along and let's just finish off people's Christmas presents." I'm like, "Finish off," and then it's 150 quid later that you spent on about 12 stalls of wax melts here, a candle here. Like spoilers. Alcohol here, yeah. It's just honestly, but no, it was good. It was good to go around and sort of see and support some local business. To be fair, because other than that, yeah, it's trying to get a bit festive because there's nothing else to put a smile on my face at the moment when it comes to football wise.
Yeah, I haven't brought. Well, I have brought a couple of presents. Me and my siblings do like instead of like buying shit. There's four of us, so instead of buying free shit presents, we all say we draw a name out of a hat. Whoever you get to spend 50, 60, 70 quid on whoever you get. So I've got my brother, who's the easiest one to buy for. So I bought his presents, but I haven't done anybody else's yet. Like Lauren, before we started, showed me a list of all. She goes, "I'm going to buy all this for your mum," and I'm there like, she goes, fine, you look then. So we got the tree up on Sunday as well. Did you go real tree or
no? So we're at fake tree. Now, so we used to get real tree because got like an old style Victorian house, so we got the ceiling for it. So we used to go and buy like a 10-foot one. Nice. But with the dog, and it just starts shedding, doesn't it? As well, it's a pain in the arse to clean. So a couple of years ago, we actually invested in a habitat one. It's called. So I think it's meant to be like 120 quid. We got it for about 80 quid, and I reckon now we're must be on commission for habitat about 4 or 5 now. My mates, I've actually bought them because it does look like a real
like Sainsbury's Argos in it.
Yeah, it's the Argos. Yeah. But honestly, it's I can't believe we talk about Christmas trees on a Wolves podcast, but
people will enjoy this. This is the best bit.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, but yeah, no. So yeah, we'll have to get an affiliate for Habitat. Maybe that'll be our next sponsor, mate. Argos and Sainsbury's.
The issue I had this week, and this is proper adult problems now, and we will get onto the football now. Before we went and got our Christmas tree Sunday morning, and obviously people know I've only been in the house just over 2 weeks, I think, and the sink got stuck. The waste got stuck in the thing, and I was like, right. And it's one of those you push in, and obviously when you're done, you push it, and it pops back up, and it wouldn't pop back up. So I'm not a handy person at all. People know I don't really like to get my hands dirty, and Sunday night I was spending unscrewing all the sink and stuff like that. Managed to pop it back up, and I ordered a replacement, which was the wrong one. So I have had the new one come today. So after the podcast is done, edited and uploaded, I think my evening is going to be spent trying to change that, which it could be a good video in itself, that, because I'm like I said, the least handy person ever. But that's why I got the tree up and set up and the lights, and then said, "Lauren, you decorate it, do what you want to it." Because but adult problems, I suppose. And I suppose, Jord, the football's just been a little bit of an inconvenience for us at this stage. We had 2 games under the lights at Molineux over the last week. Nottingham Forest last Wednesday, which will sort of glaze over throughout the podcast, I think, because it was a pretty dull affair from a Wolves point of view anyway. And obviously we're sort of 5 or 6 days on at the time of recording anyway as well. But the main event will be, or has been, that game under the lights against Manchester United. We were sort of gearing up to it, and it all sort of happened all of a sudden. There's been whispers of protests. People kicked off a little bit after the Forest game because I think we discussed it last week on the podcast, maybe got a little bit excited about the prospect of potentially getting something against Forest, and especially with how well we played against Villa, Jord, they really, really let us down. And I think people got a little bit wound up after that. I said it on my reaction. I think I was sort of resigned to the fact that we're probably going to go down after that performance. I think they're the type of matches you have to be getting points from if you want to stay in the division. And then we saw lots of noise of protests, which has been sort of, there have been rumblings about over the last month or so. And it was the guys at the Old Goal Pack that ran with the main one that we saw. Of course, there was a little bit of a gathering before the game outside the Billy Wright, which got a bit of traction. And the main one yesterday with the Old Goal Pack delaying going to our seats for the first 15 minutes of the game. And I'll tell you what, whether you like it or not, the traction that it got was something. They were talking about it on Sky Sports News all of yesterday afternoon. During the game, they spoke about all the fan groups involved, including ourselves. So that was quite interesting. I haven't watched it back or heard it personally, but them mentioning Talking Wolves on commentary, I know, George, you'd heard it, was quite something. But I would say a small success for the fans, and it's definitely given got the attention and the attraction that fans wanted. And I think the wider football world now, Jord, is aware of what's going on and what are the reasons Wolves fans are so fed up with this football club at the moment.
Yeah, and I think credit first of all to sort of the Old Goal Pack in terms of being the ones to actually put the head above the parapet and make a stance and almost put their neck on the line for it. Because I think there's been a lot of noise about protests and if fan groups can get involved. And I mean, we've been asked to get involved as well at times from people that listen to it. And there's obviously a lot of planning that potentially could go into it. And there's a lot of things that you need to make sure go right to make sure that it has the impact it does. And actually from a couple of sort of convoluted, sort of precise tweets and saying, well, this is what we're going to do, and almost taking the lead on it. I've got to give credit to them that they were the ones brave enough to go and do that. And like I say, as a channel, we've been more than happy to support that. I think on yesterday, even on the game, I think you went on ITV, for example, talking about it. I was on the United stand pre-game, and that was, they weren't aware of it at that point, but then actually a lot of their fans within the chat were actually supportive of, well, yeah, this is a good thing, like fair play to Wolves fans for making a stand. And like say, Sky had reported on it all through the day. So I think actually from the time of it coming out and being announced to actually the game itself, credit that it got the traction it got. I think credit to the Old Goal Pack for sticking in
such a short space of time, by the way, Jord, as well, because it was only sort of over the weekend. I think it got pushed, maybe Saturday or even Sunday. No, it wasn't Sunday. Exactly. Maybe it was.
I think it was Friday night or Saturday, Friday, wasn't it? Yeah. And like I say, credit to them for doing that. And and credit to the Wolves fans that actually took part in it, protested. I know there's a lot of Wolves fans that stayed at home and stayed away from it. I was one that stayed at home to ultimately, get the message out on another channel. And I think again, like I come off that chat, and we were talking before we come on here. I come off the channel. I come downstairs around about 10 to 8 to put Sky on to sort of then follow that coverage and get ready to sort of watch the game. But the one thing I will say that I was a little bit disappointed about, and again, this might get me some negative comments towards me, was I was actually a little bit disappointed with how many fans were actually in the stadium at that point and in the stand in those first 15 minutes. I felt like the traction it got from the weekend, the traction it got from Waterloo Road outside, I felt like even those fans that aren't on social media, those fans that wouldn't necessarily listen to podcasts, right? It might not be for them. Actually, with fans that are sticking outside, that fans that are outside Waterloo Road, they'd understand the message of what fans were trying to do and almost back that and almost join in with that. Now, again, appreciate there's a massive caveat with fans that would go into seats, such as the elderly, young parents with young children, fans with disability, right? That would happen with. But what I was quite angry about watching at home was that the South Bank to me felt like it was 2/3 full. And again, you were there, you could probably comment on it a little bit more. I know you said the concourse was actually quite busy and rightfully slow, but the South Bank's 2/3 full. It panned around the stadium. North Bank's like half full. Steve Ball, obviously United fans are in the bottom. The Billy Wright, there's probably more fans in the Billy Wright than percentage wise, but again, that's sort of the clientele, and that's where a lot of the corporate fans are, and some of the, more so young family enclosure fans as well. So I expected that. So I'll be honest with you, like, as much as the protest got traction, it's got worldwide eyes on it. The fact that a lot of those fans that decided not to go into the ground for the first 15 minutes have done the club proud and actually really got that message across on a wild scale. As a fan, sort of watching it from home, I was a little disappointed with the amount of fans that were actually in the seats from minute one. And again, there will be fans with reasons for that, and I completely get it. But this club's all about community. This club's all about togetherness. This club's all about being one pack. And for me, like, whether you completely buy into that message or not, if there's a majority or there's a large portion of Wolves fans that feel the right to protest, why wouldn't you join them as this one pack mentality? For me, it just felt like one disjointed pack. And again, I think what's going to be prevalent now is we've got 2 weeks now before the Brentford game at home, just over 2 weeks, right? Again, if there's going to be protests that are going to work on a larger scale around the ownership of this football club, now's the time really to strike while the iron's hot. So if there is going to be more protests that happen and fans want to get involved in it, I think now is really the time in the next 2 weeks where the old gold pack have almost taken that lead on it now. I'm not saying it all has to lie on and rest on them, but if fans want to get involved in protests, if fans want to do that, then these are the 2 weeks now to actually really plan something. And again, it's Brentford. It's a 3:00 game. I think I know it's not going to have the eyes on it that Man United have, but it's still shown around the world that the Premier League, it's that sort of thing. So I think if fans do want to get involved in a protest and make it meaningful, we've got 2 weeks. There's 2 weeks now to prepare for one.
Yeah, you'll get the sort of wider media reporting on it. I think the Guardian did an article on it yesterday afternoon before the event even happened. Henry Winter was posting about the protest yesterday. The Express and Star have done various pieces on it over the weekend as well. And I think, look, I don't think every single Wolves fan would have seen the message. I think because it happened in such a short period of time, people would be aware of it. You could sort of see that. It was hard. I mean, you mentioned earlier on, I went on ITV. They asked me a couple of times, how many people do you think are going to take part? It was impossible to know that. And, if I spent a little bit of time knowing sort of, or if I got an angle of Molineux pre-match around 8:00, I probably would be able to give you a guesstimate. But I think on such a short period of time, people like the fans trust, we sort of originally gave them sort of the power to try and sort it out. And no disrespect to them, things probably weren't going as quick as other fans would have wanted things to happen. I completely appreciate it from their point of view. They want to go through the right protocol of sorting police need to be notified if you're doing a protest, this, and this. And I think the 15-minute one is the easiest way to do it, because theoretically you're not doing anything wrong. You're just going to your seat 15 minutes late, but it's powerful enough, especially against Manchester United on Sky Television. It's going to send a message out. We even saw she out banners, Jord, throughout the game. I think there were 2 in the South Bank around the half-hour mark that were getting shown. I don't know how they snuck them in, but the Taiwan flags were there as well. I don't think the stewards, probably with the amount of people all trying to get into the ground at one point, I don't think they were overly bothered in regards to the material that was being taken in to the South Bank. Will they be a bit stricter on that next time? Possibly. But I think you mentioned the Brentford game. This won't and can't, this protesting can't just stop now. Oh, we've done it. We've made our message. That's it. I think until we have some sort of response or message from the football club, it's going to continue. You've got Brentford, like you said, in a couple of weeks' time. I have no doubt there'll be something for that. West Ham. You then got Shrewsbury, who we drew in the FA Cup as well. Again, that one, unless it's been selected for television, that one will be interesting. But I think in terms of the Shrewsbury game, it will probably be just a boycott. That could genuinely be a really, really poor attendance for that game. So I think in terms of an initial effort on such short notice, it did well, and it got the message out that it needed to, and it's made the wider audience know that there are now issues at Wolverhampton Wanderers Football Club. I think a lot of football fans outside of Wolverhampton or outside the West Midlands probably wouldn't appreciate and didn't understand why Wolves were in the position that they're in. So, yeah, I think fair play to everyone that got involved with it. Fair play to the Old Gold Pack for sort of sticking their neck out and going for it, because there were so many sort of discussions about a potential protest, and no one could sort of we couldn't get 100% agreement on that. And I don't think fans would have, it was always going to be difficult to get, we had people say and comment that saying they're not going to do it, which is fair enough, each to their own, isn't it? But for a start, Jord, I think it was positive. I understand your comment about that, more people probably should have taken part, which I think they should have. Everyone's got their reasons why not to, but I suppose it's a step in the right direction to make the issue known a lot more worldwide.
Yeah, and I think, and again, to paraphrase what I said last week around Fosun when we got the fan question, I said actually over the 10 years, Fosun are probably net neutral in terms of, in my opinion, of the good they delivered in those first 5 years versus the negligence in the last 4 or 5 years, right?
Yeah.
So in terms of you asking me, am I completely anti-Fosun? I'm not completely anti-Fosun. I'm anti-Fosun in what they've done in the last 4 or 5 years. But in my position of, if fans are at the point where they want to see change, if fans say, they want Fosun out, they want change in the football club, as a Wolves fan, I would stand with those fans that want to do it. Like I say, I think even within, and again, you're part of the fan group, the message, what's going on, right? And I think there's even been, when you're sharing back to me, Joe, Finn stuff, like stuff that I'm going, I think that's a little bit too far. Like, so we're not always going to agree on something, but if the greater majority think that this protest is the way to do it, and something as simple, like you say, as being able to stay out the ground for 15 minutes, I'm a little disappointed that fans haven't just stood with other Wolves fans that are going, are also sticking in solidarity of, what, there's a massive problem at this football club at the moment with Fosun's negligence. I think the messaging might be why some of the fans also decided to go to the seats, in terms of, it's a little bit mixed of, well, is Fosun the problem? Is Jeff Shee the problem? Is it the recruitment the problem? Are we just pissed off with the results on the pitch? So I think that's where it's a little bit cloudy. But for me, if you
the fact that you bring up 4 things there, George, straight away off the top of your head is a concern for me, because I appreciate that there were a lot of people saying that on social media, saying, okay, you're
100%.
doing a protest, but what for? But the fact that you can bring up 4 negatives straight away, and they're not just little niggly things like, oh, I'm protesting because they haven't painted the top of the Billy Wright stand. They're 4 very, very big and crucial things about the club as well.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? So if you're asking me, if someone says to me, "Oh, I'm protesting because we've got 2 points and we haven't won a football game," well, for me, it's a team sport. There's winners and losers. Football's just a results business. It's cyclical. I can't protest about us being poor on the pitch.
Yeah.
I can choose whether to go on to the game or not, and I'm choosing to stay away. But I won't be able to say that's a reason for people to protest, because people spend the money, can do what they want. When it comes to a recruitment thing, the recruitment naturally has completely failed, and it's been mismanaged for a few years, in terms of we've sold our top assets. The quality of the squad has got weaker and weaker. And I said it on the United stand last night. We've now got a carcass of the football team, right? So we've got little bits of quality there, but all these vultures have come and cherry picked our top talent. And from a Fosun perspective, because they haven't injected cash in from the top, on top of the net profits that we've sold when it comes to Cunha, Aitnari, Neto, Jota, wherever else, because we've sort of let that happen and rot, we now just got this carcass of a team that is just, it's not fit for purpose. It's rubbish. Jeff, I know there's fans that want Jeff out, and again, I can hear that, I can see that. I think Jeff would admit himself that he's got things wrong over his 10 years here. I definitely think he's got a lot of things wrong. But for me, you're asking me as a Wolves fan what I'm most aggrieved about right now of the state of my football club. I have to put that on Fosun, because Fosun are the ones that have got the keys to it. They've been so negligent over the last 3-4 years. And this is stuff that I've called out on this podcast over the last couple of years. Yeah. Matt, when he was on here, would call it out as well. A lot of fans have seen this over time, and I almost feel that Jeff is almost an extension of Fosun. And at times I do feel sorry for him. I'm not saying he's completely out of any blame or anything like that. I think as well, he's definitely done things wrong. But for me, the biggest problem for me is what's coming out at the top. And it's got to change, right? And I know, and again, I think as well why there might be some confusion when it comes to protests and why people want to get involved and not is as well. Though I do think that there is a little bit of, well, there's a lot of just mistruths being spread online as well about us becoming the next Sheffield Wednesday, or we've got the Macquarie loans and we're going to be in all this debt and all this sort of stuff. And the reality is, Fosun are worth $39 billion. They've had to do a fit and proper ownership test to come into the football club. They can't leave the football club with debt that they've actually brought onto the club themselves. If they were to leave debt into a football club and Wolves is worth 500 million and they're leaving a 200 million debt, guess what? They're only going to get 300 million of that 500 million because someone who buys the club isn't going to give them 500 million and pay off their 200 million pound debt. Are Fosun, when it comes to this reset, are they going to be committed when we go down to the Championship? They've got to fucking be, because their investment's going to go
they
from...
won't get their money back, will they? Yeah.
They're going to go from £400 million valuation of the football club down to about £60-70 million overnight. They're an investment company. They're going to have to spend to get us back into the Premier League. And when they get back in the Premier League, they're going to have to invest again, because no one's going to buy a newly promoted side, in my opinion. Like, they're going to want to see sustainability. They're going to want to see that foundation within a football club as well. So I think fans that are sort of saying that, you know, we're going to go down and do a Sheffield Wednesday or a Blackburn or anything like that, they had Singapore fouls, like I said on the podcast last week. Like, Fosun, their net worth is too great, first of all, to allow that to happen. And when it comes to the Macquarie debts, there's two things that can happen when we go down to the Championship. The money they borrowed against the TV revenue this year. First of all, they could probably get a deferment. When they come back into the Premier League, they'll just pay it at that point. Or they can put directors' loans in.
Yeah.
And then write it off when they've got the money to. Again, £100 million loan versus a company that's worth $39 billion. That'll be able to get serviced and sorted. And I'm just talking about the financials of the football club where, again, fans who may not understand the maths and accounting side of things, like I've had to speak to some of my friends who are accountants to understand it myself. Like, we don't have to worry about that. Like, Fosun, their balance sheet is just so superior and great that will not happen. Whether Fosun go down in the Championship and then do almost what the Wenkers have done and just go, well, you know what, we're a little bit bored of our toy now. No one can comment on that. That could happen. But in terms of from a financial mismanagement perspective, I don't think the club are going to go under or have any issues when it comes to that point of view. So I think as well, that's almost been sort of mixed messages within social media where fans are going, well, maybe I'll get involved then or I won't get involved. I think what's really important now is over the next 2 weeks from the fan advisory groups, and you're part of that, Dave, Talking Wolves are a part of that, should I say, the Old Goal Pack, Fancast, all of them. There's so many to list. Just make sure, like, what we're protesting for when it comes to the Brentford game, it's clear, it's visible and understandable for fans. And then fans have got the ability then to comply and to get involved in it, or they choose to ignore it and go back and go into the stands. And I think, again, if I'm a fan, a Wolves fan, and again, and I'm seeing the greater good and people are trying to make change from a football club, again, it comes back to, even if I don't fully 100% believe in it, I would stand with those fans. I would get involved in that because that's for the greater good of my football club. That's what my football club and my fans are telling me. This is a problem. Get involved in that. I think we should be doing that in terms of in solidarity. And again, coming back to it, I was a little bit disappointed with what I saw. The amount of fans I saw in the stands on for kickoff. Honestly, I really, really was.
Yeah, I think like I said, I think the overall sort of execution of what the protest was meant to be probably could have been better in terms of more people getting involved. But I think the main objective was to get the actual message out there, which
has happened.
It's happened. And yeah. To be fair, Sky really pushed it. Like I said to you, I was watching Sky Sports News before, for the hours leading up to the game, and they spoke about it. Central News, the ITV here in the UK, covered it massively on their evening show as well. I think Midlands Today, the BBC spoke about it, so it had loads of coverage. So people will be aware of it on a bigger scale. It'll be interesting now, Jord, because Fosun aren't really going to want this to continue happening every home game because there's going to be things happening. I have no doubt they'll be looking into how these flags and banners made their ways into the ground. There's other things which I'll quickly touch on in a second that happened pre-match as well. What do you think needs to happen now from them in terms of do we need communication? Do we need a response? Because ultimately for them, the only way they can sort of try, and I don't think they'll ever get 100% of the fans back on side, but the only way they can try and get fans back on side is to sort of talk the talk and walk the walk. One thing could be first of January they've smashed 200 million, in the transfer market, which number one probably wouldn't be clever, but number two is probably unlikely as well. I just feel like, and look, I'm not a director of communications. I would really not know or even understand how to try and approach this, but I don't know. What do you think needs to happen now?
So I think and again, people are saying they want to hear from Jeff Shee, like Jeff as a custodian of the football club and as what is his role? He's chairman, right? Is it chairman?
Yeah.
Chairman of the football club. It probably does need to come from Jeff in terms of being able to say what that looks like in terms of roadmap. But for me, again, it has to go above Jeff at this point. It has to come from Fosun Group as a whole for me, because Fosun ultimately hold the keys to it. They say what gets pumped into it. They say what they can invest in it. They could, in theory, they could have, in theory, inject 200 million into it in January, and it wouldn't even touch the sides of their complete net worth. Again, it would be massively advised. I think what Wolves fans want is that little bit of communication. Now, again, with communication, they're probably damned if they do, damned if they don't, because there's going to be things within there that fans will like to hear. There'll be things in there that fans won't like to hear. And what I say for them won't like to hear is probably stuff like the stadium's not going to get rebuilt. The ticket prices might freeze. They might not reduce. I don't know. I'm just saying about negative sound bites that might come off the back of that, and then fans are just going to get very sort of tunnel visioned on that one thing, and then say, "Well, this is a load of shit." It's a little bit like Jeff's podcast in the summer when he did with the business of sport, where actually, on the whole, I thought the podcast was quite balanced, but then people picked up on the soundbite of being lucky, and then ran with it and go, "Oh, well, he said we were lucky." Like, if you listen to the whole thing of it, there was a little bit more to that, but I think what Fosun need to do from a Wolves fan perspective is we probably need a roadmap. They probably need to outline what their plans are for the club in the short, mid and long term. They will probably need to give us that roadmap to be able to say, right, we're going to be here at the moment, or we're over here now. This is where we want to get to. And over here could be, we want to get to a place where Wolves are functioning in the Premier League year on year, which they've done for the last 8 years, but let's just say that's going to be a plan moving forward. We're going to be in the sort of top 12. We're going to financially back Wolves to be a top 12.
That's key to be realistic, because I know Jeff, maybe the early years of him being the chairman, got a little bit overexcited. We heard obviously Man City comparisons and things like that, which I think he has put on record to say he regrets obviously making those comments. But I do think that's crucial that they do need to be realistic in it as well.
Yeah, and ultimately the reason why we want to become a top 12 Premier League side is that within that, every now and again, you're going to hit Europe. So you look at, teams like Brighton, West Ham, Wolves, even to some extent, Aston Villa, Palace this season. Football's cyclical. You'll get recruitment right one window. You'll have a good run of form. You'll ride a crest of a wave, and you might come seventh, and you might get into Europe. Forest, another example. Great. And that's sort of what Wolves fans, I think, or at least for me, and I can talk for myself here, that's where I would like us to be. I don't think any Wolves fan thinks we should be competing for the Premier League. I don't think any Wolves fan thinks we should be in the Champions League. I don't think any Wolves fan expects us to be breaking into the top 6. But what I expect as a Wolves fan is to be competitive.
Yeah.
We want to go into games knowing that we've got a chance of winning that. And that, again, comes down to the finances and the recruitment and the structure behind the club being set up to be able to compete with these teams. And then Fosun might say, we want to do that for our 10-year roadmap is actually to sell the football club. We brought it at this. We want to invest. We want to make the team get to this point. And look, we want to sell it for a profit. We're an investment company. That, as a Wolves fan, is something that I would like to hear. That, as a Wolves fan, is probably what all Wolves fans will like to hear. From a Fosun perspective, as a company, a massive conglomerate that floats on the stock market, that's got shareholders and a CEO, do I need to tell within my portfolio, this little cog of a thing within our portfolio, Wolverhampton Wanderers, do I need to tell them every business decision I do, why I do it, when I'm going to invest, when I'm going to retract, when I'm going to build a new stadium? Honestly, they could just tell everyone to fuck off. And that's sort of their approach right now, is they're sort of just trying to ignore it. I hope the noise goes away. But it's different from owning a football club to owning Thomas Cook, for example, which they've got shares in, right? Like, If I'm a Thomas Cook customer and all of a sudden I can't book a fucking 5-star holiday to Orlando, I'm not going to protest outside the holiday hypermarket and go, I want Thomas Cook to fly me to fucking Orlando. Like, it's just not going to work. But when you've got 30,000 fans, match-going fans going to a stadium, when you've got hundreds of thousands of fans going across the world that are saying, look, we need to understand what's going on, because you've got something that's happening week after week after week after week. You probably have to be more answerable to those fans about your business decisions.
You need a point as a fan. Like, I'm not saying that anyone can, ring up walls and say, yeah, can you pass Jeff Shee's number on and let me have a word with him? Like, it's obviously not going to happen, but as fans, you almost do need a point of contact. I think Larry Dalrymple's an easy sort of person to always bring up in these situations, because when we had someone like him at the club, there was almost that sort of middleman that could sort of, you could almost get your point across to. And there are ways to speak to the club, of course, but you're never ever going to get through directly to Jeff Shee to raise these points. But that's almost what I think, whether you like it or not, communication is key in every sort of aspect and part of life, whether it's, a relationship, whether it's business. Business is massive, and sometimes if there's a fuck up, I have it in work, George, you probably have it in work, you don't really want to speak to it, you don't really want to address it, but ultimately, long term, to move forward, you have to address it, and you have to, own up and put your hands up sometimes. And that's why it's interesting. I think it will be very, very interesting when we get a response from Fosun, because I think they need to, because it's going to carry on. I think 99% of the people, when they put out a statement, or whether Jeff Shee does a video, however they approach it, or an interview, 99% of us will think it's bullshit and won't want to hear it anyway. And that's the difficult thing. So I will be very, very intrigued to see how they can get fans back on side, because like you said, they could put the club up for sale now and say we're for sale, but someone might not buy us for 3 years. And then if you're up for sale, why are Fosun going to keep putting money out of their pockets to try and push this club? They're not going to. So that's why it's a very, very difficult and quite fragile situation that we find ourselves in.
But again, it comes down to, like I say, with the communication piece, like me as a human being, I treat people on face value in terms of with what you do. And what I mean by that, and what I'm trying to get at is there's things that people say to me, there's things that people believe in, there's things that people do on a day-to-day basis where I'm either going to agree with what they do or I'm not going to agree with what they do. It comes to Fosun, some of the football decisions that have been made by the football club. Fosun could come on a video, or however they want to do it, or do an open statement and go, right, this is what we've done. These are our mistakes. Mm-hmm. But these are why we've done them. And on the back of that, I always say, when it comes to me personally talking about relationships, work, it comes down to, if I have rationale as to why someone's done it, whether I agree with it or not, as long as I get rationale and understand why you've done it, I don't have to agree with it, but I go, you know what, fair enough. You think that way, it might not have worked, but at least now we understand why you did it and why you thought that. For example, giving Vitor and Domenico this much control in the summer. We're not going to, as fans, we're all going to say, nah, that's bullshit. Like, we're not going to agree with that because they've left us in a mess. But if you give the rationale as to why that happened and why you thought that might happen,
do you think that needs to be like a video piece, like an audio piece?
I would say so. But I would say so. But again, like what I'm saying is, me as a human being going, well, I didn't agree with that decision, but you've given me the rationale. I can sort of understand now why you did it. Fine. And I think the reason why Fosun aren't talking about it right now or coming out is, I genuinely think Fosun just don't understand sport in general, and I think it's been misconstrued from their end. That I think Fosun think fans are protesting because we're bottom of the league.
Yeah,
I generally think that's what it. I think they think fans are protesting because we're bottom of the league, and it was in the I can't remember what article it was. It come out yesterday, but it was about they think they've just made bad footballing decisions, which is why fans were annoyed. Fans are annoyed because of bad footballing decisions.
The Guardian piece yesterday,
I think it was the Guardian piece. Yeah.
Fans are annoyed about the esports thing as well, wouldn't it? They mentioned something about that.
Yeah. And again, like the esports thing, again, we know a little bit about that. Like, that's got nothing to do with that doesn't come into any fans getting annoyed about the esports thing are getting annoyed about it for not the right reason, in my opinion, anyway. But again, by the by. Yeah. But I feel like I've lost my train of thought now. Sorry, we were saying it's got to be in video format. But again, I think Fosun think the protests are happening because we're 20th. Wolves fans in our lifetimes, Dave, we've been down to League One. I've seen Wolves. Majority of my life, Wolves have been a top 8 championship side. If you take in my average of 34 years being on this planet, I I don't think Wolves should be. Wolves fans don't want or don't think we should be Man City or winning every week or in Europe every season. But Wolves fans just want to be competitive. Wolves fans just want to know that we're going to a game and you know what? We've got a chance here.
Yeah.
Because we've got a squad, we've got a management, we've got resources behind us, and we've got an infrastructure behind us that goes, you know what, we've got the best possible chance of succeeding. Like, I don't care what division Wolves are in. I would go, if we're in the Premier League, I'd go if we're in the Championship, League One, League Two. I would go, I'd support this club, we'd still be doing this podcast. It's nothing to do about that. But where fans are angry are is that when you're not giving us as owners the tools to compete at the level we're competing at, that's where we get frustrated. And again, I just don't think that lands on Fosun's ears. Like, I really don't. And I think it's a massive problem. So I'm hoping and praying that Fosun, and again, I'm not saying this Fosun, not Jeff, I'm saying Fosun come out with this. But I have a feeling as a massive corporate conglomerate organisation, they're going to think we don't owe anyone any explanation for anything we do. And to some extent, they're right. But, you could imagine if it was like Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos, effectively that's what we're talking about, right? If they fuck up, they're not going to come out and say everyone with an Apple iPhone, oh, I'm really sorry, like we fucked up. They'll just be like, well, we're just going to launch a new model and everyone's going to pay it and get in line. Yeah. And I think that's almost like how Fosun will treat their businesses. And unfortunately, Wolverhampton Wanderers is a business of Fosun. So, yes, we'd love to hear from them. We'd love to get that roadmap. I just don't think we're going to get it, no matter what we do from a protesting perspective. But we need to carry on.
Yeah. The one way, like I said, just the one way they can start to get some fans back on side to see that they mean business is obviously transfer windows, to see what they're going to pump into the club, how they're going to back the manager. But ultimately, because of the situation that we're in, like I said, one, I think they've struggled to find players to sign. But two, I don't know. I think Wolves fans were obviously resigned to relegation now, Jord. But like, if I don't know if there might be a couple of questions about this, but like, you could look at the Championship now. Maybe players that are outside the top six, and I'm talking like I saw someone, for argument's sake, talk about O'Hare, Josh Sargent, players like that who, again, as of right now, probably don't sound like they're going to set the world alight, but players that will come in, improve our squad in terms of technical ability, and then when we go down, are probably going to be top-end Championship players straight away to get you out of the league. So that's one way they could approach it. I don't think it would win many fans over because you've got 5 months from January to the end of May of negativity, because it's going to be a toxic place. All of a sudden, this player who's on really good form in the Championship loses all confidence, loses all. It's a difficult situation for them to be in. But that's why I think they need to address something. Again, I'm not a communications director. I don't know how is best for the club to approach this and how Fosun should approach this. But that's the only way they're going to calm what's going on. Otherwise, just constant negative press. And I have no doubt, I don't know how big the gap. I don't know what time the match was on in China yesterday, for argument's sake. I don't know how big and how much of an audience they would have got in China for yesterday's game. But Fosun won't want to see their name being dragged through the mud. I have no doubt the Chinese commentators would have picked up on it as well. I have no doubt they won't want to see one of their employees in Jeff Shee being sort of called out in the crowd with banners and so on. So it has got to be somewhat of a wake up call for them, I suppose.
Yeah, and I think when it comes to I think because of how Man United are probably the biggest global football team in the world, and especially around Asia as well, got loads of fans. So that game would have been on multiple TV channels. It would be broadcast in China, and people would be watching it because just purely even from a Man United supporting point of view. And Wolves now are the only Chinese-owned football club, I think, in the whole of the UK. I think that's true.
I think in Europe.
Is it in Europe?
I think so.
Is it? Well, okay. Well,
I might be wrong. I will check that in a second. I'm sure it's Europe.
I think it's Europe. So they will still have an interest on how Wolves perform. And like you say, they're not going to want to be embarrassed and ridiculed on worldwide TV. And that have been. And even if they're not getting embarrassment from looking at the league table right now, they should be getting embarrassed from fans actually protesting and making that heard. So yeah, it definitely would have been covered. Like I say, from that sort of global media standpoint, I'm just a little concerned, and my worry, and again, talking very openly and candidly on this podcast, is my worry is that Fosun continue not to speak to fans, the protests get angrier, they get more volatile, they get more hostile, and then fans end up getting arrested or damage gets done to the stadium or just stuff that really sort of then at that point moves away from the message of it being a Fosun problem, and actually then Wolves fans get painted out to be hooligans, tainted out to be sort of, causing problems and disruptors and all that sort of stuff. So I implore that sort of the protests moving forward stay with the sort of same hostility as what we saw yesterday, which was the right level for me. But I do think if Fosun continue not to engage with fans, that it will spill over.
Yeah, I was just looking. I think there are more sort of minority owners and sort of possibly chairmen throughout Europe as well. I think the guy that is the chairman at AS, is it Nancy Lorraine? I probably pronounced that completely
in
wrong.
France.
In France, yeah, they're in the second division. Maybe it's top division teams in Europe, well, there's not many basically. So, yeah, I think we've probably touched on what we need to touch on there, Jord. Unfortunately, we do actually have to talk about the football as well. Disaster on the pitch as well for me last night, Jord. 4-1 defeat against Manchester United. Again, I didn't go into that game full of confidence because I think although United have been dropping points, I think they've only lost one in the last 9, including yesterday. Drawing a lot of games, drawing games they probably shouldn't be, dropping points in. I just felt we got the game plan completely wrong, especially in the second half. Lineup was probably close to what I expected. I was, Keanu Hoover came in for Chichua, who has been a little bit underwhelming over the last couple of weeks. I suppose that's a bit of an understatement, actually. Krejci coming in for João Gomez. And to get in at half-time 1-1 draw, I thought we were in a good position then. The first goal that we conceded is an absolute joke in terms of, how poor we were defensively, and Bruno Fernandes is on his backside and still manages to get the ball in the back of the net. But second half, I just can't understand why we're playing such a high disjointed back line against a team who, counter-attacking ones got very good, very quick, very technical footballers. For me, at 1-1, you just sit deep, absorb the pressure, and just ride the wave.
Yeah, I think we've spoken about the protests for the majority of this podcast so far. Well, actually, all of the podcasts so far, other than Christmas trees. What I saw on the football pitch last night was unacceptable. Again, as a fan, for me, an away team having over 24 shots on goal, 24 attempts on goal, whether that's Man United, fucking Harlem Globetrotters, Barcelona, like that should not be happening as an away side. We got the tactics completely wrong, especially in that second half, and it felt to me like I was watching just a bunch of headless chickens run around the pitch and just get nowhere near Man United. And this is, it's a better Man United team than it has been in the last couple of years, but it's still not a very good one. And we made them look decent at times, not good at times.
Talking about title charge on Sky Sports for United today. I know I'm a Wolves fan, but I'm thinking, look, United haven't been awful, but Wolves were very, very bad yesterday.
Oh, if Man United were playing Arsenal this weekend, Arsenal would absolutely hammer them, and that's the truth of it. Right, so like we gifted them space, we let them hurt us at times, and again, as a Wolves fan, I understand. We know the quality again is not within that squad. We probably aren't fit for purpose. We probably aren't good enough to compete in the Premier League week upon week, right? But what we expect, what we want is effort. We want heart. We want grit. We want determination. And that second half for me was pathetic. It's completely, utterly pathetic. The players really let themselves down, and the fans are actually on the players' side. And again, I know we'll probably talk about Strand Larson Harris a bit with the booing and stuff, but on the whole, the fans are on the players' side here. Like we understand that it's not good enough, but you've got to show us effort. You've got to show us something, and we'll continue to support you. Like we could lose every game from now to the end of the season, and fans would not blame the quality in the squad as an issue in terms of, because we know that we're not going to begrudge that. But if you're trying and there's effort and there's heart and there's determination and you're sort of representing the people of Wolverhampton and what it means, this club means to people, no one's going to get on the fans, no one's going to get on the players' backs for that. Never. Not one fan would do that. Now, it just simply wasn't good enough. And I think there's a problem. Another mistake that maybe Fosun or the football club have made is actually bringing Rob Edwards in now. Because I think if this continues in terms of this losing culture, this losing mentality, continues to go on and on and on, I've got no issue with Rob Edwards. I think Rob Edwards would be a good manager for us next season. I think he wanted to come. I'm not going to get Rob Edwards back. This is not a Rob Edwards problem. But if you're going in week after week after week at that training ground and you keep losing, your credibility, first of all, when the playing squad's going to go because your ideas have come and we're just losing every week still. And then you'll lose that sort of goodwill with the fans as well because, and that's my fear right now, is that actually Rob Edwards won't be here come the end of the season in a way of, because if we keep losing football games, at some point, and it's not now, it's not going to be in February, it might come down to April, May. If we keep losing football games in the manner of losing football games, it will be untenable for him because like, how can you then go into next season with a playing squad with little to no confidence? Any confidence Rob Edwards has got and his coaches that he's brought in, Harry Watling, Paul Trollope, they're not going to have any confidence in the ideas they're trying to instill on the players as well. Yeah. So it's just a massive, massive, massive problem. And again, it comes back to it. As long as fans are seeing effort, grit, determination, fans will support this club minute 1 to 90. But when they effectively, and I will say, they jacked it yesterday in that second half. Their arses went, they jacked it. That's not acceptable. That's not acceptable for this football club.
Yeah, like I think he got the game plan. First sort of 5-10 minutes of the second half, United were getting in behind. And for me, it's like Rob Edwards, if I was Rob Edwards there, I'd be like, fucking hell, lads, let's just like, let's calm down a bit. Let's sit on it. We sat far too far forward. Players all over the place. Look, kamikaze type football yesterday. It just wasn't anywhere near good enough. And look, Manchester United, in terms of quality, are a much better team than Wolverhampton Wanderers. They've got quality on the bench. You saw the players that they were able to bring on. But like, yeah, it was nowhere near good enough yesterday. And yeah, I think fair play to Rob Edwards after the game because he came right up to the South Bank, collapsed, fans waving their arms around, and he sort. I think it was after the Forest game where fans were saying, "Look, it's not good enough," and he was sort of mouthing, "I know." I think he probably looked at fans, gesturing all sorts towards him yesterday. It's nothing against him though. We're just desperate for a win. I've mentioned it a few times on different pieces of content, whether I've spoken on interviews and stuff. We cannot break that Derby record. We can, but for me, we cannot. Because Jord, in our lifetime, that will never get broken again. No one will. There will not be a team as bad as if we get 9, whether it might be less than that, 9-10 points. We will not see that broken in our lifetime. So we've got to start getting results from somewhere. But it's so frustrating because the Villa game, we could have got something easily. The Spurs game, you're 1 kick away from getting 3 points straight away there. The Brighton game, if managed better by Vitor Pereira, you win that game. All of a sudden, the season looks completely different. So it's, some people mentioned it to us at the start of the year, and I sort of laughed it off. But it is genuinely a possibility because I'm really struggling to see. We look at Brentford in a couple of weeks as a winnable game, but they've actually been okay under Keith Andrews. They've actually getting results and, using the strengths of the players. The big lad that's coming up front's caused problems and started scoring a lot of goals. So it's frustrating. And one player that's not scoring the goals for us, Jord, is Jørgen Strand Larsen, just 1 league goal all season. It was from the penalty spot against Burnley. Sort of sarcastically cheered as he was subbed off yesterday, and he sort of gave a glare towards the South Bank. John Arias the same, who I thought was just so poor again yesterday. I don't know if it's him as a player, if he's not up for it, if he doesn't want to fight, if it's the Brazilian league. It just looks so half-paced, John Arias. Just Jordan, the ball's loose, and he's just sort of, there's like no urgency to get there, no urgency to bring it forward. I feel a little bit for Jørgen Strand Larsen. I still don't think the service and the players around him are anywhere near good enough So I wasn't a huge fan of what happened yesterday in terms, do I think he played well? No. But I'm not one that's going to stand there and sort of jeer or boo or sarcastically cheer an individual player. But I can understand why people have done it in terms of, we haven't seen this team win a football match since April.
Yeah, I think on Strand Larsen, for what it's worth, I think where I will give him a bit of grace is that if you're watching it, the gaps between him and the midfield and the rest of the team, it's like you could fit the fucking A4
He's pressing
him.
on his own. There's nobody else pressing with him.
Yeah, so, people saying for him to, like, should be chasing down balls, pressuring from the front a little bit more. That's fine, he can do that. But if you're not pressing as a team collectively, it's one pass and you're around Strand Larsen anyway. So it's pathetic. So the pressing as a team, as a unit, isn't good enough. The gaps between the forward line to the midfield is far too deep. That's because we're sitting in. And I feel a little bit sorry for him in a way of that he's basically been given a thankless task. He's trying to feed off scraps, and it's a tough gig for him. Like, I think Erling Haaland wouldn't look good for Wolves right now. That's just to give the example there. Where Strand Larsen lets himself down is anytime we've been in games, you see him do it all the time. He gestures to the fans. He wants more. Whether he likes it or not, the Newcastle situation, I come on here and said, for the money we got offered for him, we should have sold him, in my opinion. If I know the money was going back into the club, they should have sold him, because as much as I think Jørgen Strand Larsen's a great finisher, I don't necessarily think he's the focal point of a number nine and going to hold the. Yeah, he's not going to hold the ball up and bring others into play. He wants the ball to feet, and when you give him a chance, he's a good finisher. So we don't play to his strengths at all. But obviously, the bid coming from Newcastle, his head's got turned, which is absolutely, it would do. Champions League football, club on the up, trajectory. That I understand all that, but he ended up staying at the football club. He signed an extension. He's taken the pay rise. He's our highest earning player, I believe, right now in the squad. And again, on the basis of what happened last season with the goals he scored, and then with Cunha leaving and other people leaving, fair enough. He signed that deal. And as the highest earning football player for Wolves, we're expecting a lot more out of him, of an all-round game. Now, I don't think, as an all-round footballer, I just don't think he's at that level. I don't think he's going to spear it. I don't think he's going to carry us. He's not a Raul Jimenez. He's not that sort of type of player. Like, he's nowhere near what, as a complete forward as Raul was pre-injury. But he can hold the torch to him when it comes to his finishing. So when you're sticking him up top on his own, it's a thankless task for him. But the glares, the gestures, he had a go at the South Bank after the Burnley game. Like, mate, like, I'm not being funny. You've got a 4-year contract with us. You're earning what I believe to be close to six figures. I think he's close to 100 grand a week now he's on. And you're having a go at fans who are paying £700, £800, £900 a year to come and watch you. You can't be doing that. And all that, again, it comes back to all fans want to see is a little bit of effort, grit, determination, and you don't see that from him. And partly of that is probably he's fucking knackered, probably, come the second half, because he's chasing shadows. But as a minimum, fans want to see that, and we're not seeing that from him. So, again, I don't agree that he should be getting jeered and booed off the football pitch yesterday, in my opinion. Fans have got every right to do that, and fair enough. There's fans that don't rate him, again, fair enough. But he has got no comeback or any right to start staring into the South Bank or gesturing at fans as, well, why are you blaming me?
Yeah.
But no one's like, you can't be doing that. I'm sorry, you can't be doing that when you're sitting on one goal this season, and caveated with the quality around him is not what it was last season. So guess what? You probably aren't going to score as many goals. But mate, like, you signed a big extension in the summer. You are our highest earning footballer. So when it comes to the football performances not being good enough on the pitch, we expect more from you because you're fucking taking home 100 grand a week. That's why you're getting all the gestures.
Yeah. I think the only player that probably came out, in my opinion, with a little bit of credit yesterday was Jean-Luc Bellegarde. Obviously, unfortunately, he got injured early on in the second half, but he grabbed a goal. I think he deserved a goal. I think the last couple of weeks, the Forest game as well, he looked pretty lively. Villa, looked lively. I think we're starting to see a little bit. It was strangely around this sort of time well, no, maybe it was a little bit later. It was like this sort of time around last season where we started seeing the best out of Bellegarde again. But he looks confident. He looks comfortable on the ball. Hopefully, the injury when he picked up yesterday isn't too serious, and we can see him back out on the pitch. But everybody else really, really disappointing performance again overall.
I think I will say, Dave. I know. Again, I'm only pointing him out because he's had a lot of critics since he come to the club this year as well. I actually think Moller Wolf had a decent. He looks like he wants to try in, and I think actually the last 3 games he's coming out the cold. I actually do look at him and go, I can sort of start seeing now the fruits of a player that in a functioning football team could be a good outlet. But yeah, I think it's worth calling out that actually I thought he was okay yesterday, and I thought he was actually quite good against Forest, to be honest.
Odds on Jorgen Strand-Larsen dropping the V's towards the South Bank, Jermaine Pennant style. You remember that?
I think it's coming. Yeah. I think it's coming, but I'll tell you what, he'd be a fucking idiot to do it, because I think how fans are feeling, there might be about 50 fans storm the pitch. Yeah. So I'd advise he didn't do that. Yeah. And I'm not advocating that happen either, but I genuinely think like how angry the fan base is at the moment, I wouldn't even try and push anyone over the edge right now.
I'm joking. Arsenal on Saturday, Jord. Again, I think it's maybe a sold out away end. If we'll have 3,000 Wolves fans there, I don't know. Most probably just going for the day out in London. Do I even need to ask you what you think the result will be on Saturday?
Well, we're going to get hammered, aren't we? I think there's no, I think again people listen to this podcast for some insight and tactical notes of how we can nullify Arsenal. I don't see any way we can with what we've got right now and how we're playing at the moment.
And pray, perhaps.
Yeah, essentially that's our only hope. But they are the best team in this country at the moment. I know they lost to Villa at the weekend. I truly believe that. And again, that pains me to say that because I really don't like Arsenal. I don't. But they are probably going to win the league this season, or at least right now they're for sure the favourites. They've got a strong squad. They've got multiple players from multiple positions. They've got talent all over the pitch. They can hurt us everywhere. And 8 o'clock on a Saturday night, again, the world will be watching.
Isn't it 3 o'clock or is it a late kickoff?
No, it's the 8 o'clock kickoff, I'm sure it is.
Oh, is it? Oh.
Let me just double check that. I think whilst we're on here.
I hope it's not.
8 o'clock kickoff. Oh, is it? So it's going to be prime time around the world showing it as well. So, yeah.
I thought it was a normal 3 o'clocker.
No, we're not going to get away with it, unfortunately. So I think there's not even a % of me that thinks we can get a result, and that really hurts. That hurts me to say that. And I think if we escape with conceding three or less goals, we've probably had a good game.
Well, I thought it was 3, but I mean, I'm at work I would have been at work for the first half, so it's sort of done me a favour in a sense, but also it's going to ruin my evening. I'd rather get it out of the way and over and done with. But who knows? Let's see if Wolves can give us a shock. One piece of news we did have today, Jord, as well. Rui Pedro Silva, it's a name from the past. He's returned to Wolves to work as part of Rob Edwards' backroom staff. Big part of Nuno's staff and during the successful time he had at Wolves, joining as an assistant head coach, which is quite interesting. I said to you before we started, it wouldn't surprise me if long-term he became the head coach if things do go a bit pear-shaped under Rob Edwards. But, I mean, we spent 59 minutes being quite negative about the football team, but that's quite a positive appointment, to be fair, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. And again, I think in terms of trying to get goodwill and a good culture back around Molineux, you're getting a guy coming in who has been part of the most successful times as a Wolves fan in our lifetimes, and he was a big part of that. So he's coming back to the club. Now, do I think he's going to have the impact that can completely switch our fortunes around overnight? I don't even think David Blaine could switch our fortunes around overnight, mate, to be honest with you. But I think it's a long-term play. I think, obviously, he was part of that Forest backroom staff as well that was very successful with Nuno there as well. And it's a feel-good story to what is a real bleak winter so far at the football club. So hopefully he comes in and he'll do a good job for us.
Not sure why he didn't rejoin, at West Ham. I've not looked into it, to be fair, so I'll have to maybe...
Yeah, I think I don't think there's many of them have actually joined Nuno from Forest either, or even the ex-Wolves ones. So there's definitely maybe, I don't know, grumblings of fallings out, and who knows, right? I think we're only speculating at that point, but maybe that's what's happened. But the fact that
someone that obviously
likes,
worked with the back five though as well. So if this is a system that Rob Edwards wants to continue with, you've got someone that had a successful time with back five and hopefully can get them to actually defend properly as well.
Yeah, 100%. And like I say, it can only be seen as a positive that he's come back to the club again. The reason why he's come here, he either really wants to be here or he's getting paid a fucking fortune. Yeah. So either way, fair play.
Yeah. To be closer to his family.
Yeah,
apparently something like that. Right, we've just been chatting for just over an hour, so let's have some quick fire questions. Jamie Walters 23 on Twitter. Any recommendations on anything actually enjoyable to do rather than go to Wolves? You got your Christmas markets, like Jord mentioned earlier. The darts starts this week as well. I think the World Championship darts on Thursday. There's loads to do in there. Christmas films, also. There's loads to do this time of year. Jord, I don't know if you've got any other recommendations.
Yeah, there's loads to do. Christmas films, like you say. I would suggest getting into the NFL to people that don't watch the NFL at the moment.
I did on in the background on Sunday.
But it's getting through to sort of the playoffs now, so it'll get a little bit exciting. So if you need something from now till sort of the end of January to the start of February, it's getting to the crunch time with that. And I'll always advocate for golf. I tend to stay away from Molyneux these days. Go and play golf, have a few beers, have a bit of food, and come back and switch the stream off when we're 3-0 down. and that's how I like to spend my Saturdays at the moment.
Yeah. Rambling about Wolves, based purely on the value of the club as an asset in the Premier League versus the Championship, do you trust Fosun to mount a serious effort at getting us back up? I mean, we've had this discussion. We spoke a little bit about it last week as well, Jord. It will be very, very interesting. It's hard to say, but you would assume that Fosun will want to pump a little bit more money in to try and get this club back into the Premier League at the first time of asking.
So whatever people think of Fosun and what's happening at Wolves at the moment, and I will paraphrase this because there will be fans that say, well, they are. They're not fucking idiots. Like in terms of you don't get to turn over $39 billion a year with idiots in charge of that football, in charge of that sort of that group. So the fact that they're going down to the Championship, which we are, if they want to get their investment to a point of where they want to sell it and make profit on it, they will have to heavily invest next year if they're really serious about getting this club to a point of sale and getting this club back to sort of a financial level that they'd want it to be and be seen around the world. So in theory, absolutely, they should, in theory, be spending levels of money that probably superseded the season that Nuno got us up. I think that in theory is what should happen if they're serious about the football club. Time will tell if they are or not. But I do, with all, again, as crap as it has been for the last few years and as crap as it is right now, I do genuinely think that there will be business, as a business and an organisation, they will know they have to invest heavily to get it back to a point where they want to get it to a point of sale. So I think they're going to have to invest.
Matt Hardiman, do we now become a yo-yo club from the Premier League to Championship every season, or worse, get back-to-back relegations? Like I said, I can't see the back. I never say never. Obviously, I can't see the back-to-back relegations happening. And again, like it's hard to tell, really, isn't it, Jord? I mean, with our drop-off in quality, we'll have to get promoted back from the Championship, but then also we'll have to obviously spend a significant amount to sort of have a Premier League quality squad as well. So, I mean, it's hard to say. Before this year, not many teams have been able to sort of come up and stay up. But, I mean, there's a chance that at least one in Sunderland, they're going to stay up this year, I think.
Yeah, well, again, like going back on almost with the previous question as well, they're going to have to heavily invest to get us back in the Premier League. And when you get to the Premier League, you've got to get your recruitment right. So you look at that Sunderland team, for example, they come up via the playoffs and they basically brought a new 11 and pretty much a bench as well. There's not many even of the promotion team that are even making the bench right now. So it all comes down to recruitment. If they get us back into the Premier League and then they don't get the recruitment right, we'll head straight back down.
Yeah.
Same, you're looking at what Burnley are probably going to come down with us at this rate. Quite comfortably can say that right now. And they were the outliers in the Championship the season before with all the clean sheets and stuff that Scott Parker got. So they've got their recruitment slightly wrong, or they haven't spent enough money, and they're going to come straight back down. So it's sort of like a two two-sided answer, but yeah, they're going to have to invest in the Championship. Then they're going to have to really recruit for the Premier League at that point.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. It's hard to speculate what if buts and maybes, but I think we will be going down to the Championship, and it'll be very, very interesting to see how those windows are approached, the quality and the profile of players that are signed as well. Robbie Batch, how long is it until we ask questions of Rob Edwards? Again, we mentioned this a little bit earlier on. No doubt the situation he took on is dire, which he put on himself. But the game versus Nottingham Forest and Manchester United are arguably the worst it's been. Could Rui Pedro Silva have the big job in the next 6 months? So again, he's thinking along the same sort of lines as I was earlier on. It'd be interesting if that happens. Rui Pedro Silva has managed. He managed Family Cow, and I think he managed somebody else in Portugal. Can't quite remember how well or how badly he did there, Jord. But I mean, if you can't get Nuno, I suppose maybe is he the next best thing?
That might be what Fosun think or Jeff think as well, right? So maybe. And again,
they work for Pep, so there must be a good manager. If he's working for Nuno, he might be a good manager.
I think. Listen, I think we both want Rob Edwards to be successful here, and he's got a 3.5-year contract. And if he stays for 3.5 years, Wolves will be back in the Premier League and will be at a level that Wolves fans want us to be. Again, it comes back to sort of my real fear is if we keep losing games consistently and there's no sort of upturn, in my opinion, how can then you say that he's the right man going into next season? He may well be the right man, but he's took the job at the wrong time.
Yeah. We'll finish off with this one, Ethan Diggory. Hypothetically and realistically, I suppose, we can only bring 3 players in come January with likely very little, in the way of sales. What position/players do you think puts us in the best position to not finish bottom? I'd say you need 2 forwards straight away in terms of wide players.
100%.
I don't know about a third, really. Maybe a wing back, possibly.
Oh, we need a right wing back.
Yeah, but I think you need 2 forward players, definitely.
Yeah, I'd say 2 number 10s and a right wing back. And again, I know you sort of briefly mentioned Hover coming back in for Chachua, but they're both just nowhere near good enough.
Yeah,
they're both nowhere near the level. And I know there was calls for Hover coming into the game yesterday, but I watched him yesterday and
just looks scared. Then he looks a little bit. He doesn't look like
even in the first half. Even in the first half, when Fernandes took the quick free kick, and was it Dallo went through and Sam Johnson made a good save. To be fair,
got like lag, isn't he?
Yeah, but like watching it on Sky Sports, they're showing the replay. Hover's 15 yards away from it, just watching it happen, and I'm just like, positionally, that's just not good enough. So yeah, I would definitely say right wing back. And then two number 10s, wide players, whatever you want to call them. We're lacking so much quality up top. We need something.
Yeah, I'm not perfect in terms of recruiting or finding players, but I think closer to January, I'll probably do some pieces of content looking at certain profiles that Wolves should be looking at. Homegrown players obviously going to be a key one, Jord. Certain players that may well leave Wolves as well. Jose Sarr has been rumoured to be one of those. I would say there might be one big sale as well, whether that's more than likely, I think, going to be João Gomez out of anybody. But, we may see other players go as well. But enjoyed it today, Jord. Although it has been negative, I think it's been another constructive podcast, and I'm hoping people agree with our points. As always, we love to see you guys get involved. If you're watching on YouTube, you can drop it in the comments. On Spotify as well, you can leave comments for us as well. If you are listening on Apple or Spotify, please do leave us a 5-star review. On YouTube, you can hit the subscribe button as we get closer to 21,000 subscribers, and hit the like button. Jord, where can people find you if they wish?
At JordRuss7 on X or Instagram.
Thank you, mate. I'm at Dave as a party everywhere, and we are at Talking Wolves everywhere as well. If you want to keep up to date with the latest Wolves news, please feel free to like, subscribe, follow us on all your social media platforms. And until next week, fingers crossed Wolves pull off the shock of the season in beating Arsenal at the Emirates, but don't hold your breath. Look after yourselves, and we'll see you soon.